A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a controversial move that has drawn widespread condemnation, the United States has imposed sanctions on three prominent Palestinian human rights organizations: Al-Haq, the Palestinian Center for Human Rights, PCHR, and the Al-Mezan Center for Human Rights. This decision, announced by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, has raised questions about the U.S. commitment to human rights and accountability in the context of the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The sanctions were placed under the Department of the Treasury's specially designated nationals and blocked persons list on Thursday, citing that these organizations have directly engaged in efforts by the International Criminal Court, ICC, to investigate, arrest, detain, or prosecute Israeli nationals, without Israel's consent. This statement highlights the U.S. government's alignment with Israeli interests, particularly in light of previous sanctions imposed on the ICC itself under the Trump administration. The ICC has been investigating allegations of war crimes against Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, in relation to their actions during the conflict in Gaza. The sanctions have been met with fierce backlash from the affected organizations and human rights advocates globally. In a joint statement, Al-Haq, PCHR, and Al-Mezan condemned the sanctions as draconian and described them as a cowardly, immoral, illegal, and undemocratic act. They argued that these measures serve to silence voices advocating for accountability and justice amidst what they describe as ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people. The U.S. has previously sanctioned other Palestinian organizations, including Adamir, which focuses on the rights of Palestinian prisoners, and has also targeted the Palestinian Authority and the Palestine Liberation Organization. Critics of the sanctions, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, have warned that such actions undermine the ability of human rights organizations to operate effectively, jeopardizing their ability to document abuses and provide assistance to affected communities. The sanctions have been described as part of a broader strategy by the U.S. government to shield Israel from accountability for its actions in the region. Human rights advocates argue that these measures are aimed at stifling dissent and preventing the international community from addressing violations of international law. The ICC's investigations have been a source of contention, with the court facing opposition not only from the U.S. but also from Israel and several other countries. The Trump administration's stance against the ICC has been characterized by a series of sanctions and threats aimed at curtailing the court's jurisdiction and ability to pursue cases involving Israeli officials. In response to the sanctions, Mohsen Farshnashani, a sanctions lawyer and advisor at Democracy for the Arab World Now, DAWN, expressed outrage on social media, stating that the actions reflect a continued prioritization of Israeli interests over human rights. He labeled the sanctions as shameful but not surprising, given the U.S. administration's track record. The implications of these sanctions extend beyond the immediate impact on the organizations involved. They signal a troubling trend in U.S. foreign policy, where human rights advocacy is increasingly being stifled in favor of geopolitical alliances. As the situation in Gaza continues to escalate, the need for independent documentation and accountability becomes ever more critical. The U.S. government's actions may serve to embolden those who commit violations, while simultaneously silencing the voices advocating for justice and accountability. The international community must respond to these developments with vigilance and a commitment to uphold human rights standards. As the sanctions take effect, the future of human rights advocacy in Palestine hangs in the balance, raising urgent questions about the role of international law and the responsibilities of nations to protect human rights globally. The ongoing conflict in Gaza, marked by significant civilian casualties and destruction, highlights the importance of independent monitoring and reporting on human rights abuses. The sanctions against these organizations not only threaten their operations, but also send a chilling message to other potential advocates for Palestinian rights. As the world watches, the need for solidarity with those fighting for justice and accountability in Palestine has never been more pressing. The U.S. must reconsider its approach and recognize that supporting human rights organizations is essential to achieving a just and lasting peace in the region. The voices of those who document and challenge human rights abuses must not be silenced, and the international community must stand firm in its commitment to uphold the principles of justice and accountability. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.